Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to start our seminar named Doing Business in Mongolia. My name is Bolormaa, and I'm working as a partner and executive director of the GRATA International Mongolia. And today we're going to present 3 presentations related to how to do business in Mongolia more efficiently and legally. And I will be the first presenter presenting on the general investment environment and what kind of legal entity forms can be used by the foreign investors and business runners who is doing their business in Mongolia. So second topic will be covering what are the tax and social insurance obligations and what are the incentives, taxation and non-taxation incentives offered by the government of Mongolia to the foreign investors. And the last presentation will be with the topic on work permit, how the expat employees will be working in Mongolia, what kind of permits required. And also we will share some useful information to understand what's the enforcement proceedings in place in Mongolia, like for international arbitration award and foreign court decision. So if you have any questions, you can write down your questions on the box, question and answer box. And also we will be sharing our contact details on at the last slide of each presentation. And after the 3 presentation is finished, we will have about 15 to 20 minutes question and answer sessions. So if you have any questions, you can ask during this seminar. And if we don't have sufficient times, you can still leave your question and contact details, and we can send you the answer of your question by email. And I would like to thank your time and interest to our seminars. And now I'm going to start my presentation. Okay, I'm going to present about the general investment environment and legal forms of entities in Mongolia. So before starting my presentation, I would like to briefly introduce about the GRATA International. GRATA International has about 29 years of the history and experience in the legal service, and we have about 20 offices in Central Asian countries and Eastern Europe. And like one of the advantage is if you approach one of our offices, you can have full legal services in number of the different jurisdictions. And also we provide high quality legal services at a competitive price as comparing to our international competitors. And we have over 250 legal professionals working in about 20 countries. So on the map, we're showing that our office's presence. Like if you see, there is a number of the offices in Central Asian countries and Turkey. And we also have representatives in UK, US, China, and Switzerland. GRATA International is providing full legal services for the number of the practice areas. And it is showing on the slide that we are providing in all our offices kind of full legal services. And we do provide legal service for the these sectors shown on the slide, and all our offices providing legal services to our local and international client for these named sectors. Now I'm moving to the content of my presentations. So first of all, I would like to share some statistical numbers about the Mongolian economy and what are the promising, interesting sectors to invest in Mongolia or to start a business. And then I will sharing the information about what kind of investment forms is offered to the foreign investors, and what kind of legal forms of entity can be registered or incorporated in Mongolia under the law. And the last 2 points I would like to highlight what are the regulated sectors require some license and permit to do business in Mongolia. And which, the last point we're sharing is the name of the countries which we have a double taxation treaties. So of course, for the foreign investor, it's an important decision to start its business or to do investments. So we will be just sharing, the number of the countries you can consider when you make a decision on investment to Mongolia. Here I would like to share general information about Mongolia. Like we have 3.2 billion population, and the GDP forecast in this year will be 5.1%. And our main export products are the mineral products like coal and copper, and the major imports are petroleum and cars. And our key trading partners are China, Russia, and European Union. Generally, the Mongolia is rich in mineral reserves, and we have a quite good source of agricultural agribusiness sector. And of course, Mongolia is attractive kind of destination depending on its geographical location between the big two markets, China and Russia. And Mongolia's GDP is in worth of 16 million US dollars in last year. And I would like to share international rankings, which is ranked Mongolia in terms of doing business. So for ease of doing business, Mongolia is ranked as a 81st among 190 countries, and also ranking made by the Heritage Foundation organization. Mongolia's economic freedom is ranked as 86th among the 178 countries. As I mentioned before, some of the advantages are already mentioned. So for the investors who is starting or planning to invest into Mongolia to do business, for example, technology innovated sectors or the companies, there is a 3 years tax exemptions for starting startup businesses. And also we will have quite young and well-educated populations, like literacy level is 98%. And generally the young generation people of the Mongolia has a good English, so it will be one of the advantages to do business and expand your business in Mongolia. And also our government is offering number of the tax and non-tax incentives, like depending on the sectors and depending on the amount of the investment. And also for the mining big projects like Oyu Tolpa, Taun Tolpa is quite promising. So you can supply some products, services to these companies and in order to expand your business. And also the Mongolia has quite good telecommunication and IT sectors development. So if you're doing some business related to these sectors, Mongolia will have some good number of the customers. So on the diagram, we've shown that last 4 years FDI to Mongolia. So you see that there is a dramatic increase, like comparing 2016 to 2019. So in 2019, there is a 2.9 million USD is invested into Mongolia. Now I would like to share some interesting business sectors which will be attracting foreign investors. So the first sectors I would like to highlight is mining sector. So Mongolia has a good, substantial natural resources and minerals. And if you see the table, our main products are copper concentrate, coal, iron ore, and gold. And also, Mongolia has about 80 types of the minerals and metals, and good kind of reserve in number of the metals, including copper, base metals, and uranium and gold. And also, the mining sector is total export percentage is 89%, and it also attracted 70% of the total FDI. And it's contributed 24% of GDP of the country. So the next sector is agriculture sector. So agriculture sector will be, I think, Mongolia is famous by its cashmere product, and the Mongolia has the totally about 70 million livestock, including the sheep and goat. And we have a very good source and raw materials of the meat, cashmere, yak hair, sheep, and camel wool. So if you're interested to do business in agriculture sectors, you will have raw materials in Mongolia, and you can make and produce value-added final products and expand your business. And also, the agriculture can be also one of the interesting sectors you can do business. So 60% of Mongolian cultivated area is low in nutrition and potassium, which is easy to use for the plantation. So it means that you also can invest into the agriculture sector. And other sectors I would like to highlight is energy and banking sectors. So Mongolia also have good potential in producing wind power and solar energy. So as shown on the slide, we have a good potential to produce the energy through wind and through the solar. For example, about 270 to 300 sunny days per year, with the average sunlight duration of 2,250, 3,300 hours available in most regions of Mongolia. So it's a good source of producing solar energy. And regarding the banking sectors, we have newly had a new law on banking. So major commercial banks are obliged to become the joint stock company and trade their stocks shares at the stock exchange. So it's a good potential to the business people which doing the business in financial sectors to buy the shares of the Mongolian major commercial banks to invest into financial sectors and to earn some good profit. Here is shown the investment forms. So there's a number of the forms is offered to the foreign investors. For example, that you can set up or register joint stock companies, joint venture companies with the Mongolian partner, or you can buy the shares of the existing company through mergers and acquisitions. So we can recommend that, in order to have better benefits as a foreign invested companies, the foreign investors need to own more than 25% of the shares of the company. And also the investors can implement some concession agreement and product sharing management contracts. Like in Mongolia, in uranium, petroleum sectors, there is a number of the product sharing contracts is in place. And we have a number of the petroleum product manufacturers from China, which are doing the quite good business in Mongolia. And also foreign investors can buy bonds, securities of the companies, different type of the companies which is selling their shares at the stock exchange. And also there is a financial leasing and franchising other forms which can be used by the foreign investor. Regarding the franchising in Mongolia, a number of the international franchising is successfully, I think, implemented. For example, like Pizza Hut and CU or Coca-Cola and other. So if you're interested to expand your business into Mongolia, you can use franchising form. Here we're showing legal forms of entity for the foreign investors. So there's three different types of the investment entity forms is offered to the foreign investors. The first is limited liability company with a foreign investment. Second is representative office of foreign entity. Third one is permanent establishment. So each form has its own advantage and disadvantages. So I would like to say that, if you want to run the business without any limitations, we will of course recommend limited liability company will be best kind of option. But of course, depending on the business sectors, for example, pharmaceuticals and some like security trading companies or some other business sectors, they prefer to set up a rep office in Mongolia also. But comparing to the company, rep office has some limitations, and it cannot do like full operations of the legal entity. Only rep office can do some support activities of its parent company, and they can also do some marketing research, marketing activities, also the training, etc. And if the activity requires any license and permits, there is limitations for the rep offices. And the third option is a permanent establishment. So under the corporate income tax law, if the project is going to be continue more than 12 months, there is a requirement that the foreign company needs to register permanent establishment in Mongolia. So also we have double taxation treaties with number of the countries, and there is a requirement under the double taxation treaty that PE registration is required for the in terms of the term and the project. And all these three legal entity forms are quite similar in terms of the taxpayer, social insurance payment, and accounting obligations. So on the next presentation, these points will be discussed, presented more in detail. Here, I would like to compare that LLC and rep offices. Like, as I mentioned before, there is a certain kind of limitation applies. So, for example, regarding the licensing and permit, the limited liability company can get any kind of license and permit without any limitations. But for the rep offices, there's a certain limitations. So if you, depending on in which kind of sector you want to do business, in beforehand, you have to check whether the rep office will be a right option for your business or not. And also, commercial activity is for the rep office is also kind of restricted. So we will be like recommend you have a better to have a complete kind of legal advice service before choosing what kind of legal entity will be fit for your business and for your future business plan. There is a number of the regulated sectors in Mongolia. So the mining, banking, financial, and health and education, etc., etc. But here I would like to highlight that, if in the first three categories, like the mining, banking, IT, and media sectors, if the state-owned company of the other countries is going to invest and the buy share of more than 33%, it requires the permission from the government of Mongolia. So before starting the business, you should have obtained these permissions. And also, regulated sectors actually mean that you need to get the license in order to run the business in these sectors. So, before starting a business, you should have, do more kind of research if interested to do business in these sectors. Okay, it's my last slide of my presentation. I shown here 25 countries which Mongolia has double taxation treaties. So if you're interested to do investment and going to make a decision, you need to choose, one of these countries. Then you will have better tax kind of implications when you need to pay, dividends to your parent company and interest payments or some other service payments to the head company or any non-resident taxpayers. So it will be like affecting your business decision, whether from which country you will do your investment. So it's the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions, here is my contact details. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions, you can just drop your question on question and answer box, and or we can send a reply by email also. So now I would like to invite second speaker, Buyanjargal, associate of the GRATA International Mongolia, and she will be presenting what's the tax and social insurance obligations of the companies which is doing the business in Mongolia. Okay, I invite Buyanjargal to start her presentation.
Thank you for our moderator introducing investment environment in Mongolia. So my name is Buyanjargal, and in this section, I will introduce in Mongolia. So first of all, the main taxations include corporate income taxation, personal income taxation, and value-added taxation and customs duties. And for the investment incentives, there are taxation and non-taxation incentives, which will be clarified in the following slides. So for the corporate income taxation, the rate depends on the amount of taxable income. As you can see, if you earn up to 6 billion MNT or around 2 million United States dollars, you are subject to 10% of corporate income tax, while the annual taxable income exceeds 6 billion MNT. The income is subject to 25% on the exceeding amount, on the amount exceeding the 6 billion plus 600 million tools, which is around 210,000 United States dollars. And also for entities earned up to 3 million Turuks, which is around $106,000, are subject to 1% of corporate income tax. The annual taxable income here mentioned here includes operating incomes such as sales revenue of goods, works, and services provided in Mongolia, and income from properties by renting or selling those properties, and interest, fines, and penalties, and compensation from defaulting parties, and also foreign exchange gains, and etc. And furthermore, there are some other income taxable at different rates and deductible from the taxable income mentioned in the previous slide. And generally 10% applies to dividends, royalties, and interest, and other incomes. Moreover, profits transferred from parent establishment to its head entity in the taxable year is subject to 20% of corporate income taxation. And income from sale of intellectual property rights are subject to 5%, and so on. And also, certainly there are some deductible expenses and tax-exempt incomes. The deductible expenses include normal depreciation of goods and materials, and health and social insurance premiums, and taxes and payments, except for value-added taxes and city taxes and other taxes under the law on corporate income tax, and donations up to 10 million Turuks for specific funds, such as non-governmental organizations founded by disabled Mongolian citizens, and sport support funds, and donations for specific purposes, such as vocational supporting vocational education, and funds for reducing air pollution. And also, there are many investors are interested in investing in mining sector, and such contractors in mining sectors are obliged to deposit some certain amount of money in an escrow account as a guarantee for environmental restoration and mine closure, and such deposit is deducted from the taxable income. And also expenses in connection with possession and transfer of license on exploitation of mineral resources, and interest expenses, and many more expenses are deducted from the taxable income. Moving to the tax-exempt incomes, taxable income of taxpayers conducting activities in oil industry in Mongolia under production sharing agreements, in the income transferred abroad from this income are also exempt from taxation. The operating incomes of these organizations are also exempted. Also, operating income of non-profit intellectual property rights and loans, their property rights are exempted from exempted from taxation. And there are many more other exempt income that are not mentioned here. These are the highlights from the deductible expense and tax-exempt incomes. For the companies earned income between 300 million and 1.5 billion Turuks are able to receive tax credit of 90% of tax credit, and this isn't applicable to taxpayers operating in mining, petroleum, alcoholic beverage, and tobacco industries. And there are more credits, such as credits for employing disabled individuals, and credit for eco-friendly works and services. And as Mongolia encourages agricultural sectors, agricultural products and dairies and meat products are able to enjoy credit for 50% of the income earned from these products. And moving to the time frame for tax reporting, the tax reporting obligation also depends on the amount of the annual taxable income. So for the entities earning up to 6 billion Tauruks are obliged to submit their report twice a year, half yearly within 20th of July and annually within 10th of February. And for those exceeding 6 billion Tauruks are obliged to submit their report quarterly basis within 20th of the first month of each quarter, and annual report within 10th of February of the following year. Now let's move on to personal income taxation. Generally, 10% applies to employment income, indirect income, operating income, and property incomes, and are subject to 10% of personal income taxation. And there are some other rates, such as income from cues and gambling in the lotteries are all subject to 40% of personal income taxation. So the next taxation is value-added taxation. All types of goods, works, and services sold, provided, or rendered in the territory of Mongolia are subject to 10% of value-added taxes. And if your sales revenue reaches 50 million Tauruks, which is around 18,000 United States dollars, it's mandatory to register as a value-added taxpayer within 10 days from reaching such requirements. And the value-added tax is paid monthly within 10th of the following month. So to mention the goods and services exempt from value-added taxes, some agricultural products such as vegetables and flour and domestic dairy products, and also raw materials and chemicals imported for manufacturing of innovative goods and products, and loan services, interest, dividends and medical services are exempt from value-added taxation. For the customs duties, Mongolia uses ad valorem, or this is the tax based on the value of transaction or property, which is imposed at the time of the transaction. And the ad valorem tax is usually taxed at 5%. And for the specific tax, which is a fixed amount of tax for each unit of a good, and the specific tax differs, is taxed up to 40%. This includes excise taxes, and this method are used natively or used only one of these. As I mentioned earlier, investors are able to enjoy taxation or non-taxation incentives. For the taxation incentives, investors are protected from tax changes by obtaining tax stabilization certificate or establishing investment agreement with the government of Mongolia. In order to obtain this tax stabilization certificate, investors must meet some legal requirements, such as the minimum amount of the investment requirements, which will be clarified, which will be shown in the following slides. And it depends on the geographical location and industrial sectors. And if necessary, the environmental impact assessment must be done, and the project must create stable jobs and introduces high technology. So in the mining and heavy industry and infrastructure sectors, Stabilization Certificate is issued for investment at least 30 billion Turuks and for up to 18 years. And for other sectors, the investment amount must be at least 10 billion and more. And the certificate is issued for more than for 5 to more than 100 years. And some projects are eligible for 1.5 times longer term certificate. These are the investment in amount more than $6 million for sector for the manufacture of import substituted and export-oriented products, which are significant to long-term sustainable development of socio-economic sector of Mongolia. And also investors who engage in value-added processing, production, and export their main products are able to obtain this certificate for longer terms. And the next option is investment agreement. In order to establish an investment agreement, the investment must be at least 500 billion Turuks. And the agreement is made for a period depending on the geographic location industrial sector, as shown in the previous slides. And for the terms and conditions, both parties are able to negotiate on the terms and conditions. And this includes stabilization of tax environment in regulatory and financial supports. And there are some other tax incentives, such as exemption from customs duty and 0% of value-added taxation during constructional works of construction materials, agricultural processing and export product plants, and power plant and railway and etc. And moreover, profits of business activities and dividends, license fees for use of the investors' intellectual property rights and service charges, and payment of principal amounts and interests of overseas loans, and investors' share of leftover properties after liquidation of a business entity are able to be transferred without any tax payments. And for tax loss carry forward, loss shall be deducted from 50% of the taxable income of each year following the year the tax loss was occurred, and this can be deducted for up to 4 consecutive years. And investors should note that this must be deducted for these 4 years, and otherwise the tax loss shall not be deducted after these 4 years passed. Incentives such as first are able to lease or use land for up to 60 years with extension of for up to 40 years under a contract. Also, implementation of construction projects and increasing the number of foreign workforces and exempt from workplace fees in infrastructure and manufacture and science and education sectors. Also, the government supports investors by issuing a multi-entry visa and permanent residence permit for foreign investors and their family members. And there are also other non-taxation incentives not mentioned here. Now, let's move on to social insurance obligations. So, the persons subject to mandatory social insurances include the citizens of Mongolia, foreign citizens, and stateless persons, provided that they are employed under employment agreements and hire agreements or service agreements under the Civil Code of Mongolia with all types of business entities, non-governmental organization or religious or other organizations, or employed by foreign business entities operating in the territory of Mongolia, and offices implementing projects and programs with foreign loan and aid are subject to social insurance obligation. So this is the social insurance premium rate. So generally, the total amount of social insurance is 25.2%. Applies to social insurance. For industrial accident and occupational disease premiums, it depends on the occupational health and safety requirements. So this is optional, and it differs. So this means employers are obliged to pay 25% of taxes plus 2.8% for depending on occupational health and safety requirements. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope this was informative and useful, and thank you for your attention. And now our next
for our presentation. So we would like to, I would like to invite the third presenter, Solongo, for presenting on topic on work permits and enforcement proceedings in Mongolia. Okay, I'm inviting Solongo to start our presentation.
Okay, my name is Solongo, and as you already know, today's presentation is designed to present some important points of work permits and enforcement proceedings in Mongolia. As you already know, I'll begin my presentation with an overview of process of getting a work permit, and then I'll present the new investor grievance system, and last section will be dedicated to enforcement proceeding in Mongolia. First of all, I should say that Mongolian government is known for generally enforcing a fairly flexible investment policy and with foreign investment well received in all sectors of the economy. Each year, government approves its resolution on foreign employees ratio. Depending upon number of total employees in sector where the company operates, the ratio of expatriate is various. On the slide, you can see a government resolution table. It's based on government resolution. And for example, if the company has 30 in the mining sector, if the company has 30 employees, 10% of the total employees can be an expatriate. And for example, in scientific research and experiments and research activities, as you can see on the table, no matter how many employees company have, only 30% of total employees can be an expatriate. And For sectors not mentioned in government resolution, if the company has over 20 employers, 5% of them can be an expatriate. For small companies, like total amount of employers is like between 5 and 20, only one expatriate can work there. Now I'd like briefly overview the whole process to get a work permit in Mongolia. Firstly, employers initiate process by submitting a visa invitation letter to an immigration agency. Before entering to Mongolia, the employer or the hiring company must submit documents for a 30-day visa at the embassy or consulate abroad. And once an applicant has arrived in the country, they must then register with the immigration agency within 7 days of arrival. And then employer must submit a work permit applications to a labor and welfare agency. Within 10 days after arrival, it is necessary that the applicant will get a year-long multiple visa. And during this process, applicant must request to obtain a residence permit, and this must be filled in 21 days after entry to Mongolia. Okay, as I said before, the hiring company shall obtain employment invitation for an expatriate employer. Request shall be submitted to the immigration agency, which they consult with the labor and welfare agency before it can be authorized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. If all government agencies are in agreement regarding the application, a visa invitation letter will then be forwarded to the embassy or consulate in the applicant's country of residence. And on the slide, you can see required documents for employment invitation. It is an application form, receipt of payment, service fee. It is approximately like $10 US, copy of state registration of hiring company, copy of license with attachment, copies of government resolution if entity has exempted from ration by government resolution, and social insurance form, statement of ministries and agencies in the employment of economic entities, references from the respective labor and social welfare division, an employment agreement within a foreign legal entity with its Mongolian translation, copy of foreign citizen passport, a copy of professional diploma or other diploma certificates, and other materials can be required. The hiring company, as I said before, must obtain following documents for a 30-day entry visa for employee to a Mongolian diplomatic mission. It's a passport with a validity date for at least 6 months beyond the end of the applicant's intended period of stay in Mongolia, completed visa application form for non-tourists with passport size photo, and invitation from the inviting Mongolian organization, which should be approved by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, and of course visa fee at approximately $19. Once an applicant has arrived in the Mongolia, he must register with an immigration agency within 7 days of arrival, inclusive of non-business days. Within 10 days after arriving, employer must obtain a work permit from the Labor and Social Welfare Agency. I presented on the slide documents required for a work permit. It's application form, receipt of payment service fee, it's $8. Receipt of payment for work permit, it's like $295 US, and pay attention that this payment should be paid per month. And receipt of payment of the license to work in Mongolia, it's approximately $1. Copy of certificate of state registration, certificate of foreign incorporated company and special permission, copy of passport pages clearly containing passport number, date of issue and expiry name and date of birth, passport with at least 12 months validity, and of course, medical examination form. Let's now turn to types of visa in Mongolia. Mongolia has 11 types of visa, like types of visa indicated as Latin letters D, A, T, and others. But we need to pay attention to type T and HG visa. Type T visa shall apply to a foreign investor, a senior manager of foreign invested company or representative office. Type G visa shall apply to a foreign citizen or stateless person with the purpose of working in Mongolia under an employment agreement, irrespective for his or her passport type. And visas shall be issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mongolian Immigration Agency, Mongolian embassies, and consulates in foreign countries. Upon arrival, the applicant must get a new 1 year or 2 month multiple visa. Multiple visa fee is for 1 year is approximately like $87, and for 6 months it's around $44 US. Visitors planning to stay for more than 90 days should obtain a residence permission. Request to obtain a residence permission must be filled within 21 days after entry to Mongolia to a Mongolian Immigration Agency. And on the slide, you can see a required documents for residence permit. It's like letter of General Agency for Labor and Welfare Services, letter of inviting entity, passport of foreign nationality, residential address, copy of employee card, and also Mongolian Immigration Agency will take your fingerprints if they didn't take it before, and of course application forms. Additional documents can be required, and resident permit fee is $26 US. Before I move to my second section, investor grievance system, I should say that one of the leading priorities of the government is to protect the needs and rights of the investors, to provide foreign investors with stable legal policies and cooperation, as well as favorable environment to aid in its implementation in process of international contracts, domestic laws, and regulations. Therefore, within the framework of the government objectives, aiming to restore investors' confidence and to attract more investment into the country, the government of Mongolia has established the Investor Protection Council in 2016. The council is headed by the Chief Cabinet Secretary of Mongolia and consists of high-level officials from the ministries and representatives of business associations. The council has received and solved around 160 requests and grievances in the past, and by solving investors' grievances before it becomes dispute at the court or arbitration within the framework of the international agreements, laws, and regulations, the private sector has been protected from potential risks such as financial loss, suspension of operation, and etc. Since Investor Protection Council has created positive expectation among investors, National Development Agency has developed systematic investor response mechanism in cooperation with International Finance Corporation of World Bank Group. The SRIM successfully resolved cases in special licenses, taxation, enforcing contracts, exploration. Also, there is a spheres like inspection, labor, visa, permanent resident, where SIRM can resolve grievances. As an investor, by submitting an application or make a grievance through the SIRM system, grievances can be made from anywhere at any time in the world, and also it helps investors to monitor the progress of your grievance and how it has been resolving, and it will be possible to resolve these grievances within the set time. And of course, it increases responsibility and efficiency of government agencies and officials. There will be opportunities to issue the recent resolution of the investor grievances in a timely manner, and for investors to monitor and review the resolution of their grievances. The process of resolving grievance starts by visiting a website and file a grievance. By creating your account for Make Grievance section, your grievance will be received by the Office of the Investor Protection Council, and within 3 working days, the grievance will be reviewed and categorized, and measures will be taken to return the complaint that will not be resolved by the Council or to transfer it to redressing authority. However, if the issues to be resolved by the Council will be presented to the relevant government organizations, and feedbacks and conclusions will be obtained within 10 days. The office will analyze and receive feedbacks, conclusions, and submit recommendations to the grievance redressing authority. If the grievance redressing authority fails to comply with the office's recommendations and fails to resolve the grievance in timely manner, the Office of the Investor Protection Council will consider the grievance and make a recommendation to resolve the grievances. And the SI and this system will resolve your grievances with the multiple participation of government bodies, eliminate delays and transfer of official letters between government agencies, increase the responsibility and efficiency of officials, and resolve investor grievances in a timely manner. This new system is highly effective. It will help investors to save their time, because the process will take like 25 days. Okay, now I move to my last section as enforcement proceeding in Mongolia. In 1999, Mongolia has acceded to the convention relating to civil procedure, and in 1997, Mongolia has joined the United Nations Convention on the Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards. And also there is a lot of bilateral agreements between Mongolia and other countries like Bulgaria, China, French, Kazakhstan, and others. It's total like 19 countries there with bilateral agreements. And enforcement proceeding in Mongolia is if a party interested in the enforcement proceeding of the arbitral award or foreign court decision shall submit a request for a writ of execution to the court of jurisdiction of the payer's residence. Then enforcement of the arbitral award of foreign court decision shall be confirmed by a judge's order within 7 days from submission of the request. And after that, the judge shall immediately issue the writ of execution and deliver it to the payer and general executive agency of court decision within 7 days after issuance of the order. But there is a few specific circumstances under Mongolia's arbitration law in which foreign arbitration will not be enforced. For example, if one of the parties to the arbitration agreement has no legal capacity, or the arbitration agreement is invalid, it can be enforced. And if a party responsible for the arbitral award had not received proper notice of the appointment of an arbitrator or of the arbitral proceedings and had been unable to participate in the arbitral proceeding and provide the response, or arbitral award is not contemplated by or not falling within the terms of the claim, or arbitral award is beyond the scope of the claim, then in that manner, the enforcement will be impossible. And according to a convention on civil procedure dated 1954, the execution of the letter, of the request to enforce is established if in the state of execution, the execution of the letter does not fall within the functions of the judiciary, or if the state on the territory of which the execution is to be effected considers that its sovereignty or its security would be prejudiced thereby. And I should also say that Mongolia is a party in many disputes connected to in the sphere of mining. And for example, in 2012, Han Resources, limited liability company, disputed to be compensated for the loss and damage caused to the government's illegal action, revoking the company's license of uranium without any satisfaction, causing damage and loss in an amount equal to $70 million and violating the energy agreement and the law of Mongolia on investment. The government of Mongolia has executed and satisfied the arbitral award in accordance with UNCITRAL arbitration rule fully. And that was my last slide on the presentation. And thank you for your attention. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you for Solongo for her presentation. So I should say thank you for all the presenters. We finished our all three presentations. Now we can move to the question and answer session, what will be about 15 to 20 minutes. And we received some question. So I will be answering the first question about that whether each investor, the foreign investor, is required to invest 100,000 USD, like each investor. It's yes, and for the company, limited liability company, one of the requirements is that the minimum investment amount for each investor is 100,000 USD. And the second question is, yeah, if you leave your email address, we can send all three presentations by email. And if you have any other questions, it's like you can ask now. Okay. Yeah, we received one email address which requested all the presentation, and the videos. Let me check with the marketing team whether all the presentations are recorded and can be shared to you. Also, so you can leave your email address also if you want to receive the video. And like, if you have questions related to the presentation, you know, you also can send email and we can send you the answer. And also, okay, we received the number of the email addresses which requested the presentations. So as a concluding all the presentations, like Mongolia is a small market, like comparing to the other countries in terms of the market size and populations. However, we have very good potential in certain sectors, depending on our mineral resources, the agriculture sources to use the final products, and also we have good potential, you know, to provide to the foreign investors to start a business or expand the business in Mongolia. So, okay, we received a number of email addresses requesting our presentation. So we can share the presentations, and if you have like maybe the follow-up questions, we still can send the answers to the interested the attendees. So if you don't have any questions, we will just finish our seminar. And thanks for your time and interest to participate our seminar, and hope that you got some useful information for your business and for your operation of the companies. And if you have any other questions related to the presentations or day-to-day activities of business or companies in Mongolia, you can still approach to us, and we can share our presentation, and on the presentation our contact details are there. So it's like anytime you can send us the email. Okay, we have a question about the Mongolia has a civil law country, and is there any implementation of the English? Okay. Generally, under the agreement between two parties, the parties will be agreed which kind of law will be the governing law and how the dispute will be resolved, and the place of the implementation of the court or arbitral awards also needs to be regulated under the law. So I would say that, there is some cases, that the government of Mongolia was the party of the agreement, which is governed by the English law and other countries' laws. And Mongolian government is actually the enforcer, the arbitration award. So there is some cases. And if you have any more information needed, you can just drop email to us. If you have any kind of specific questions related to your company or related to your the contract, you can send us the email. Okay. Thank you for your time, and we will finish our seminar now. I think there's no further questions related to our presentations. So we would be happy to share our presentation. I think we have a registration list of all the attendees. So whoever requested by chat box, we will definitely send our presentation. Okay, thank you.